Cultural anthropology. 67 languages. Edward Burnett Tyler, founder of Cultural Anthropology. For the publication, see Cultural Anthropology, Journal. Cultural anthropology is a branch of anthropology focused on the study of cultural variation among humans. It is in contrast to social anthropology, which perceives cultural variation as a subset of a posited anthropological constant. The term socio-cultural anthropology includes both cultural and social anthropology traditions. 1. Anthropologists have pointed out that through culture, people can adapt to their environment in non-genetic ways, so people living in different environments will often have different cultures. Much of anthropological theory has originated in an appreciation of and interest in the tension between the local, particular cultures, and the global, a universal human nature, or the web of connections between people in distinct places /circumstances. 2. Cultural anthropology has a rich methodology, including participant observation, often called fieldwork because it requires the anthropologist spending an extended period of time at the research location, interviews, and surveys. 3. History, edit. This section may require cleanup to meet Wikipedia's quality standards. The specific problem is, this currently is not a history of cultural anthropology, but of specific terms. It also does not explain the outdated terminology used. Please help improve this section if you can. August 2020, learn how and when to remove this message. Modern anthropology emerged in the 19th century alongside developments in the Western world. With these developments came a renewed interest in humankind, such as its origins, unity, and plurality. It is, however, in the 20th century that cultural anthropology shifts to having a more pluralistic view of cultures and societies. 4. The rise of cultural anthropology took place within the context of the late 19th century, when questions regarding which cultures were primitive and which were civilized occupied the mind of not only Freud, but many others. Colonialism and its processes increasingly brought European Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. In the unilineal evolution model at left, all cultures progress through set stages, while in thinkers into direct or indirect contact with primitive others. 5. The first generation of cultural anthropologists were interested in the relative status of various humans, some of whom had modern advanced technologies, while others lacked anything but face-to-face communication techniques and still lived a Paleolithic lifestyle. Theoretical foundations, edit. The concept of culture, edit. One of the earliest articulations of the anthropological meaning of the term culture came from Sir Edward Tyler. Culture, or civilization, taken in its broad, ethnographic sense, is that complex whole which includes knowledge, belief, art, morals, law, custom, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by man as a member of society. 6. The term civilization later gave way to definitions given by V. Gordon Childe, with culture forming an umbrella term and civilization becoming a particular kind of culture. 7. According to K. Milton, former Director of Anthropology Research at Queen's University Belfast, culture can be general or specific. This means culture can be something applied to all human beings, or it can be specific to a certain group of people, such as African American culture or Irish American culture. Specific cultures are structured systems, which means they are organized very specifically, and adding or taking away any element from that system may disrupt it. 8. The critique of evolutionism, edit. Anthropology is concerned with the lives of people in different parts of the world, particularly in relation to the discourse of beliefs and practices. In addressing this question, ethnologists in the 19th century divided into two schools of thought. Some, like Grafton Elliott Smith, argued that different groups must have learned from one another somehow, however indirectly. In other words, they argued that cultural traits spread from one place to another, or diffused. Other ethnologists argued that different groups had the capability of creating similar beliefs and practices independently. Some of those who advocated independent invention, like Lewis Henry Morgan, additionally supposed that similarities meant that different groups had passed through the same stages of cultural evolution. See also classical social evolutionism. Morgan, in particular, acknowledged that certain forms of society and culture could not possibly have arisen before others. For example, industrial farming could not have been invented. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. The multilineal evolution model at right. Distinctive culture histories are emphasized. Before, simple farming and metallurgy could not have developed without previous non-smelting processes involving metals, such as simple ground collection or mining. Morgan, like other 19th century social evolutionists, believed there was a more or less orderly progression from the primitive to the civilized. 20th century anthropologists largely reject the notion that all human societies must pass through the same stages in the same order, on the grounds that such a notion does not fit the empirical facts. Some 20th century ethnologists, like Julian Stewart, have instead argued that such similarities reflected similar adaptations to similar environments. Although 19th century ethnologists saw diffusion and independent invention as mutually exclusive and competing theories, most ethnographers quickly reached a consensus that both processes occur, and that both can plausibly account for cross-cultural similarities. But these ethnographers also pointed out the superficiality of many such similarities. They noted that even traits that spread through diffusion often were given different meanings and function from one society to another. Analyses of large human concentrations in big cities, in multidisciplinary studies by Ronald Dawes, show how new methods may be applied to the understanding of man living in a global world, and how it was caused by the action of extra-European nations, so highlighting the role of ethics in modern anthropology. Accordingly, most of these anthropologists showed less interest in comparing cultures, generalizing about human nature, or discovering universal laws of cultural development, than in understanding particular cultures in those cultures' own terms. Such ethnographers and their students promoted the idea of cultural relativism, the view that one can only understand another person's beliefs and behaviors in the context of the culture in which they live or lived. Others, such as Claude Lévi-Strauss, who was influenced both by American cultural anthropology and by French Durkheimian sociology, have argued that apparently similar patterns of development reflect fundamental similarities in the structure of human thought. See structuralism. By the mid-20th century, the number of examples of people skipping stages, such as going from hunter-gatherers to post-industrial service occupations in one generation, were so numerous that 19th-century evolutionism was effectively disproved. 9. Cultural relativism, edit. Main article, Cultural relativism. Cultural relativism is a principle that was established as axiomatic in anthropological research by Franz Boas and later popularized by his students. Boas first articulated the idea in 1887. Civilization is not something absolute, but is relative, and our ideas and conceptions are true only so far as our civilization goes. 10. Although Boas did not coin the term, it became common among anthropologists after Boas' death in 1942, to express their synthesis of a number of ideas Boas had developed. Boas believed that the sweep of cultures, to be found in connection with any Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF subspecies, is so vast and pervasive that there cannot be a relationship between culture and race. 11. Cultural relativism involves specific epistemological and methodological claims. Whether or not these claims require a specific ethical stance is a matter of debate. This principle should not be confused with moral relativism. Cultural relativism was in part a response to Western ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism may take obvious forms, in which one consciously believes that one's people's arts are the most beautiful, values the most virtuous, and beliefs the most truthful. Boas, originally trained in physics and geography, and heavily influenced by the thought of Kant, Herder, and von Humboldt, argued that one's culture may mediate and thus limit one's perceptions in less obvious ways. This understanding of culture confronts anthropologists with two problems. First, how to escape the unconscious bonds of one's own culture, which inevitably bias our perceptions of and reactions to the world, and second, how to make sense of an unfamiliar culture. The principle of cultural relativism thus forced anthropologists to develop innovative methods and heuristic strategies. Citation needed. Boas and his students realized that if they were to conduct scientific research in other cultures, they would need to employ methods that would help them escape the limits of their own ethnocentrism. One such method is that of ethnography. This method advocates living with people of another culture for an extended period of time to learn the local language and be enculturated, at least partially, into that culture. In this context, cultural relativism is of fundamental methodological importance, because it calls attention to the importance of the local context in understanding the meaning of particular human beliefs and activities. Thus, in 1948 Virginia Hay wrote, "Cultural relativity, to phrase it in starkest abstraction, states the relativity of the part to the whole. The part gains its cultural significance by its place in the whole, and cannot retain its integrity in a different situation." 12. Theoretical approaches, edit. Actor network theory. Cultural materialism. Culture theory. Feminist anthropology. Functionalism. Symbolic and interpretive anthropology. Political economy in anthropology. Practice theory. Structuralism. Post-structuralism. Systems theory in anthropology. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Comparison with social anthropology, edit. The rubric cultural anthropology is generally applied to ethnographic works that are holistic in approach, are oriented to the ways in which culture affects individual experience or aim to provide a rounded view of the knowledge, customs, and institutions of a people. Social anthropology is a term applied to ethnographic works that attempt to isolate a particular system of social relations such as those that comprise domestic life, economy, law, politics, or religion, give analytical priority to the organizational basis of social life, and attend to cultural phenomena as somewhat secondary to the main issues of social scientific inquiry. 13. Parallel with the rise of cultural anthropology in the United States, social anthropology developed as an academic discipline in Britain and in France. 14. Foundational thinkers, edit. Lewis Henry Morgan, edit. Lewis Henry Morgan, 1818–1881, a lawyer from Rochester, New York, became an advocate for and ethnological scholar of the Iroquois. His comparative analyses of religion, government, material culture, and especially kinship patterns proved to be influential contributions to the field of anthropology. Like other scholars of his day, such as Edward Tyler, Morgan argued that human societies could be classified into categories of cultural evolution on a scale of progression that ranged from savagery, to barbarism, to civilization. Generally, Morgan used technology, such as bow making or pottery, as an indicator of position on this scale. Franz Boas, founder of the modern discipline, edit. Main article, Boasian Anthropology. Franz Boas, 1858–1942, established academic anthropology in the United States in opposition to Morgan's evolutionary perspective. His approach was empirical, skeptical of overgeneralizations, and eschewed attempts to establish universal laws. For example, Boas studied immigrant children to demonstrate that biological race was not immutable, and that human conduct and behavior resulted from nurture, rather than nature. Influenced by the German tradition, Boas argued that the world was full of distinct cultures, rather than societies whose evolution could be measured by the extent of civilization they explore. Our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Franz Boas, 1858–1942, one of the pioneers of modern anthropology, often called the father of American anthropology. Margaret Mead, 1901–1978. Ruth Benedict in 1937. Had he believed that each culture has to be studied in its particularity, and argued that cross-cultural generalizations, like those made in the natural sciences, were not possible. Citation needed. In doing so, he fought discrimination against immigrants, blacks, and indigenous peoples of the Americas. 15. Many American anthropologists adopted his agenda for social reform, and theories of race continue to be popular subjects for anthropologists today. The so-called four-field approach has its origins in Boasian anthropology, dividing the discipline in the four crucial and interrelated fields of socio-cultural, biological, linguistic, and archaic anthropology, for example archaeology. Anthropology in the United States continues to be deeply influenced by the Boasian tradition, especially its emphasis on culture. Kroeber, Mead, and Benedict, edit. Boas used his positions at Columbia University and the American Museum of Natural History, AMNH, to train and develop multiple generations of students. His first generation of students included Alfred Kroeber, Robert Lowy, Edward Sapir, and Ruth Benedict, who each produced richly detailed studies of indigenous North American cultures. They provided a wealth of details used to attack the theory of a single evolutionary process. Kroeber and Sapir's focus on Native American languages helped establish linguistics as a truly general science, and free it from its historical focus on Indo-European languages. The publication of Alfred Kroeber's textbook Anthropology, 1923, marked a turning point in American anthropology. After 3 decades of amassing material, Boasians felt a growing urge to generalize. This was most obvious in the culture and personality studies carried out by younger Boasians such as Margaret Mead and Ruth Benedict. Influenced by psychoanalytic psychologists including Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, these authors sought to understand the way that individual personalities were shaped by the wider cultural and social forces in which they grew up. Though such works as Mead's Coming of Age in Samoa, 1928, and Benedict's The Chrysanthemum and the Sword, 1946, remain popular with the American public, Mead and Benedict never had the impact on the discipline of anthropology that Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Some expected. Boas had planned for Ruth Benedict to succeed him as chair of Columbia's anthropology department, but she was sidelined in favor of Ralph Linton, 16, and Mead was limited to her offices at the AMNH. 17. Wolf, Salins, Mintz, and Political Economy, edit. Main articles: Political Economy in Anthropology, Eric Wolf, Marshall Salins, and Sidney Mintz. In the 1950s and mid-1960s, anthropology tended increasingly to model itself after the natural sciences. Some anthropologists, such as Lloyd Fawlers and Clifford Geertz, focused on processes of modernization by which newly independent states could develop. Others, such as Julian Stewart and Leslie White, focused on how societies evolve and fit their ecological niche, an approach popularized by Marvin Harris. Economic anthropology is influenced by Karl Polanyi and practiced by Marshall Salins and George Dalton challenged standard neoclassical economics to take account of cultural and social factors and employed Marxian analysis into anthropological study. In England, British social anthropology's paradigm began to fragment as Max Gluckman and Peter Worsley experimented with Marxism, and authors such as Rodney Needham and Edmund Leach incorporated Levi Strauss's structuralism into their work. Structuralism also influenced a number of developments in the 1960s and 1970s, including cognitive anthropology and componential analysis. In keeping with the times, much of anthropology became politicized through the Algerian War of Independence and opposition to the Vietnam War. 18. Marxism became an increasingly popular theoretical approach in the discipline. 19. By the 1970s, the authors of volumes such as Reinventing Anthropology worried about anthropology's relevance. Since the 1980s, issues of power, such as those examined in Eric Wolf's Europe and the People Without History, have been central to the discipline. In the 1980s, books like Anthropology and The Colonial Encounter pondered anthropology's ties to colonial inequality, while the immense popularity of theorists such as Antonio Gramsci and Michel Foucault moved issues of power and hegemony into the spotlight. Gender and sexuality became popular topics, as did the relationship between history and anthropology, influenced by Marshall Sahlins, who drew on Levi Strauss and Fernand Braudel to examine the relationship between symbolic meaning, socio-cultural structure, and individual agency in the processes of historical transformation. Jean and John Comeroff produced a whole generation of anthropologists at the University of Chicago that focused on these themes. Also influential in these issues were Nietzsche, Heidegger, the critical theory of the Frankfurt School, Derrida and Lacan. 20. Geertz, Schneider, and Interpretive Anthropology, edit. Main articles, Clifford Geertz and David M. Schneider. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Many anthropologists reacted against the renewed emphasis on materialism and scientific modeling derived from Marx by emphasizing the importance of the concept of culture. Authors such as David Schneider, Clifford Geertz, and Marshall Sahlins developed a more fleshed-out concept of culture as a web of meaning or signification, which proved very popular within and beyond the discipline. Geertz was to state, believing, with Max Weber, that man is an animal suspended in webs of significance he himself has spun. I take culture to be those webs, and the analysis of it to be therefore not an experimental science in search of law but an interpretive one in search of meaning. Clifford Geertz, 1973, 21. Geertz's interpretive method involved what he called thick description. The cultural symbols of rituals, political and economic action, and of kinship, are read by the anthropologist as if they are a document in a foreign language. The interpretation of those symbols must be reframed for their anthropological audience, i.e. transformed from the experience near but foreign concepts of the other culture, into the experience distant theoretical concepts of the anthropologist. These interpretations must then be reflected back to its originators, and its adequacy as a translation fine-tuned in a repeated way, a process called the hermeneutic circle. Geertz applied his method in a number of areas, creating programs of study that were very productive. His analysis of religion as a cultural system was particularly influential outside of anthropology. David Schneider's cultural analysis of American kinship has proven equally influential. 22. Schneider demonstrated that the American folk cultural emphasis on blood connections had an undue influence on anthropological kinship theories, and that kinship is not a biological characteristic, but a cultural relationship established on very different terms in different societies. 23. Prominent British symbolic anthropologists include Victor Turner and Mary Douglas. The Postmodern Turn, edit. In the late 1980s and 1990s, authors such as James Clifford pondered ethnographic authority, in particular how and why anthropological knowledge was possible and authoritative. They were reflecting trends in research and discourse initiated by feminists in the academy, although they excused themselves from commenting specifically on those pioneering critics. 24. Nevertheless, key aspects of feminist theory and methods became de rigueur as part of the postmodern moment in anthropology. Ethnographies became more interpretative and reflexive. 25. Explicitly addressing the author's methodology, cultural, gendered, and racial positioning, and their influence on the ethnographic analysis. This was part of a more general trend of postmodernism that was popular contemporaneously. 26. Currently anthropologists pay attention to a wide variety of issues pertaining to the contemporary world, including globalization, medicine and biotechnology, indigenous rights, virtual communities, and the anthropology of industrialized societies. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Socio-cultural anthropology subfields, edit. Anthropology of art. Cognitive anthropology. Anthropology of development. Disability anthropology. Ecological anthropology. Economic anthropology. Feminist anthropology and anthropology of gender and sexuality. Ethnohistory and historical anthropology. Kinship and family. Legal anthropology. Multimodal anthropology. Media anthropology. Medical anthropology. Political anthropology. Political economy in anthropology. Psychological anthropology. Public anthropology. Anthropology of religion. Cyborg anthropology. Transpersonal anthropology. Urban anthropology. Visual anthropology. Methods, edit. Modern cultural anthropology has its origins in, and developed in reaction to, 19th century ethnology, which involves the organized comparison of human societies. Scholars like E.B. Tyler and J.G. Fraser in England worked mostly with materials collected by others, usually missionaries, traders, explorers, or colonial officials, earning them the moniker of armchair anthropologists. Participant observation, edit. Main article, Participant observation. Participant observation is one of the principal research methods of cultural anthropology. It relies on the assumption that the best way to understand a group of people is to interact with them closely over a long period of time. 27. The method originated in the field research of social anthropologists, especially Bronislaw Malinowski in Britain, the students of Franz Boas in the United States, and in Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. The later urban research of the Chicago School of Sociology. Historically, the group of people being studied was a small, non-Western society. However, today it may be a specific corporation, a church group, a sports team, or a small town. 27. There are no restrictions as to what the subject of participant observation can be, as long as the group of people is studied intimately by the observing anthropologist over a long period of time. This allows the anthropologist to develop trusting relationships with the subjects of study and receive an inside perspective on the culture, which helps him or her to give a richer description when writing about the culture later. Observable details, like daily time allotment, and more hidden details, like taboo behavior, are more easily observed and interpreted over a longer period of time, and researchers can discover discrepancies between what participants say, and often believe, should happen, the formal system, and what actually does happen, or between different aspects of the formal system. In contrast, a one-time survey of people's answers to a set of questions might be quite consistent, but is less likely to show conflicts between different aspects of the social system or between conscious representations and behavior. 28. Interactions between an ethnographer and a cultural informant must go both ways. 29. Just as an ethnographer may be naive or curious about a culture, the members of that culture may be curious about the ethnographer. To establish connections that will eventually lead to a better understanding of the cultural context of a situation, an anthropologist must be open to becoming part of the group and willing to develop meaningful relationships with its members. 27. One way to do this is to find a small area of common experience between an anthropologist and their subjects, and then to expand from this common ground into the larger area of difference. 30. Once a single connection has been established, it becomes easier to integrate into the community, and it is more likely that accurate and complete information is being shared with the anthropologist. Before participant observation can begin, an anthropologist must choose both a location and a focus of study. 27. This focus may change once the anthropologist is actively observing the chosen group of people, but having an idea of what one wants to study before beginning fieldwork allows an anthropologist to spend time researching background information on their topic. It can also be helpful to know what previous research has been conducted in one's chosen location or on similar topics, and if the participant observation takes place in a location where the spoken language is not one the anthropologist is familiar with, they will usually also learn that language. This allows the anthropologist to become better established in the community. The lack of need for a translator makes communication more direct, and allows the anthropologist to give a richer, more contextualized representation of what they witness. In addition, participant observation often requires permits from governments and research institutions in the area of study, and always needs some form of funding. 27. The majority of participant observation is based on conversation. This can take the form of casual, friendly dialogue, or can also be a series of more structured interviews. A combination of the two is explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Often used, sometimes along with photography, mapping, artifact collection, and various other methods. 27. In some cases, ethnographers also turn to structured observation, in which an anthropologist's observations are directed by a specific set of questions they are trying to answer. 31. In the case of structured observation, an observer might be required to record the order of a series of events, or describe a certain part of the surrounding environment. 31. While the anthropologist still makes an effort to become integrated into the group they are studying, and still participates in the events as they observe, structured observation is more directed and specific than participant observation in general. This helps to standardize the method of study when ethnographic data is being compared across several groups or is needed to fulfill a specific purpose, such as research for a governmental policy decision. One common criticism of participant observation is its lack of objectivity. 27. Because each anthropologist has their own background and set of experiences, each individual is likely to interpret the same culture in a different way. Who the ethnographer is has a lot to do with what they will eventually write about a culture, because each researcher is influenced by their own perspective. 32. This is considered a problem especially when anthropologists write in the ethnographic present, a present tense which makes a culture seem stuck in time, and ignores the fact that it may have interacted with other cultures or gradually evolved since the anthropologist made observations. 27. To avoid this, past ethnographers have advocated for strict training, or for anthropologists working in teams. However, these approaches have not generally been successful, and modern ethnographers often choose to include their personal experiences and possible biases in their writing instead. 27. Participant observation has also raised ethical questions, since an anthropologist is in control of what they report about a culture. In terms of representation, an anthropologist has greater power than their subjects of study, and this has drawn criticism of participant observation in general. 27. Additionally, anthropologists have struggled with the effect their presence has on a culture. Simply by being present, a researcher causes changes in a culture, and anthropologists continue to question whether or not it is appropriate to influence the cultures they study, or possible to avoid having influence. 27. Ethnography, edit. Main article, Ethnography. In the 20th century, most cultural and social anthropologists turned to the crafting of ethnographies. An ethnography is a piece of writing about a people, at a particular place and time. Typically, the anthropologist lives among people in another society for a period of time, simultaneously participating in and observing the social and cultural life of the group. Numerous other ethnographic techniques have resulted in ethnographic writing or details being preserved, as cultural anthropologists also curate materials, spend long hours in libraries, churches, explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF, and schools poring over records, investigate graveyards, and decipher ancient scripts. A typical ethnography will also include information about physical geography, climate and habitat. It is meant to be a holistic piece of writing about the people in question, and today often includes the longest possible timeline of past events that the ethnographer can obtain through primary and secondary research. Bronislaw Malinowski developed the ethnographic method, and Franz Boas taught it in the United States. Boas students such as Alfred L. Kroeber, Ruth Benedict and Margaret Mead drew on his conception of culture and cultural relativism to develop cultural anthropology in the United States. Simultaneously, Malinowski and A.R. Radcliffe Brown's students were developing social anthropology in the United Kingdom. Whereas cultural anthropology focused on symbols and values, social anthropology focused on social groups and institutions. Today socio-cultural anthropologists attend to all these elements. In the early 20th century, socio-cultural anthropology developed in different forms in Europe and in the United States. European social anthropologists focused on observed social behaviors and on social structure, that is, on relationships among social roles, for example, husband and wife, or parent and child, and social institutions, for example, religion, economy, and politics. American cultural anthropologists focused on the ways people expressed their view of themselves and their world, especially in symbolic forms, such as art and myths. These two approaches frequently converged and generally complemented one another. For example, kinship and leadership function both as symbolic systems and as social institutions. Today almost all socio-cultural anthropologists refer to the work of both sets of predecessors and have an equal interest in what people do and in what people say. Cross-cultural comparison, edit. One means by which anthropologists combat ethnocentrism is to engage in the process of cross-cultural comparison. It is important to test so-called human universals against the ethnographic record. Monogamy, for example, is frequently touted as a universal human trait, yet comparative study shows that it is not. The Human Relations Area Files, Incorporated, RAF, is a research agency based at Yale University. Since 1949, its mission has been to encourage and facilitate worldwide comparative studies of human culture, society, and behavior in the past and present. The name came from the Institute of Human Relations, an interdisciplinary program /building at Yale at the time. The Institute of Human Relations had sponsored RAF's precursor, the Cross-Cultural Survey. See George Peter Murdoch, as part of an effort to develop an integrated science of human behavior and culture. The two EHIF databases on the web are expanded and updated annually. EHIF World Cultures includes materials on cultures, past and present, and covers nearly 400 cultures. The second database, EHIF Archaeology, covers major archaeological traditions and many more sub-traditions and sites around the world. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Comparison across cultures includes the industrialized, order industrialized, West cultures in the more traditional standard cross-cultural sample of small-scale societies are Africa. Nama, Hottentot, times Kung, San, times Thonga times Lozi times Mbundu times Suku times Bemba times Nyakayuza, Ngond, times Hadza times Laguru times Kikuyu times Ganda times Mbuti. Pygmies, times Ngundu, Mongo, times Bainan times Tiv times Igbo times Fon times Ashanti, Chi, times Mendi times Bambara times Taulinsi times Massa times Azandi times Ataro Nuba times Shilluk times Mao times Masai. Circum-Mediterranean. Wolof times Songhai times Wodab Fulani times Hausa times Fur times Kaffa times Konso times Somali times Amara times Bogo times Kenyasi Nubian times Tedar times Tuareg times Rifians times Egyptians, Fela, times Hebrews times Babylonians times Ruala Bedouin times Turks times Geg, Albanians, times Romans times Basques times Irish times Sami, Las, times Russians, times Abkhaz times Armenians times Kurd. East Eurasia. Yorick, Samoyed, times Basari times West Punjabi times Gond times Toda times Santal times Uttar Pradesh times Barusho times Kazakh times Khalkha Mongols times Lolo times Lepcha times Garo times Hazaras times Laka times Burmese times Lame times Vietnamese times Raid times Khmer times Siamese times Simang times Nicobarese times Andamans times Vida times Tanala times Negari Sembilan times Atayal times Chinese times Manchu times Koreans times Japanese times Ainu times Gulyak times Yukaga times Chukkai. Insular Pacific. Javanese, Mayao, times Balinese times Iban times Bajau times Toraja times Tobalors times Alors times Tiwi times Aranda times Urakiva times Kimam times Kaporku times Quima times Manyas times New Ireland times Trobrianders times Siwai times Tikopia times Pentecost times Mbao Fijians times Aji times Murray times Marquesans times Western Samoans times Gilbertese times Marshallese times Chuukese times Yaps times Palauans times Ifugao. North America. In Gallic times Alu times Copper Eskimo times Montagnais times Mi'kmaq times Saltio. Ojibwa, times Slave times Kaska, Nahane, times Yak times Haida times Bellacoola times Twana times Uruk times Pomo times Yokuts times Northern Paiute times Klamath times Kootenai times Gross. Ventus times Hidatsa times Pawnee times Omaha, Dejaha, times Huron times Creek times Natchez times Comanche times Kirikahua times Zuni times Havasia Pai times Tohono O'odham times Huachol times Aztec times Popaluca. South America. Quiche times mosquito, times bribery, Talamanca, times Cuna times Gojiro times Haitians times Kalinago times Warao, times Yanomamo times Kalina, Caribs, times Sarameka times Munduruku times Cubio, Tucano, times Kayapa times Javaro times Amahuaca times Inca times Ainra times Siriano times Nambiquera times Trumai times Tengbayara times Tupinamba times Botokudo times Shavanti times Awakoma times Kiwa, Guarani, times Lengua times Abapong times Mapuche times Telyulch times Yagorn. Multi-sited ethnography, edit. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Ethnography dominates socio-cultural anthropology. Nevertheless, many contemporary socio-cultural anthropologists have rejected earlier models of ethnography as treating local cultures as bounded and isolated. These anthropologists continue to concern themselves with the distinct ways people in different locales experience and understand their lives, but they often argue that one cannot understand these particular ways of life solely from a local perspective. They instead combine a focus on the local with an effort to grasp larger political, economic, and cultural frameworks that impact local lived realities. Notable proponents of this approach include Arjun Appadurai, James Clifford, George Marcus, Sidney Mintz, Michael Taussig, Eric Wolf and Ronald Dawes. A growing trend in anthropological research and analysis is the use of multi-sited ethnography. Discussed in George Marcus' article, Ethnography in / of the World System, the emergence of multi-sited ethnography. Looking at culture as embedded in macro constructions of a global social order, multi-sited ethnography uses traditional methodology in various locations both spatially and temporally. Through this methodology, greater insight can be gained when examining the impact of world systems on local and global communities. Also emerging in multi-sited ethnography are greater interdisciplinary approaches to fieldwork, bringing in methods from cultural studies, media studies, science and technology studies, and others. In multi-sited ethnography, research tracks a subject across spatial and temporal boundaries. For example, a multi-sited ethnography may follow a thing, such as a particular commodity, as it is transported through the networks of global capitalism. Multi-sited ethnography may also follow ethnic groups in diaspora, stories or rumors that appear in multiple locations and in multiple time periods, metaphors that appear in multiple ethnographic locations, or the biographies of individual people or groups as they move through space and time. It may also follow conflicts that transcend boundaries. An example of multi-sited ethnography is Nancy Skeeper Hughes' work on the international black market for the trade of human organs. In this research, she follows organs as they are transferred through various legal and illegal networks of capitalism, as well as the rumors and urban legends that circulate in impoverished communities about child kidnapping and organ theft. Socio-cultural anthropologists have increasingly turned their investigative eye onto Western culture. For example, Philippe Bourgois won the Margaret Mead Award in 1997 for In Search of Respect, a study of the entrepreneurs in a Harlem crack den. Also growing more popular are ethnographies of professional communities, such as laboratory researchers, Wall Street investors, law firms, or information technology, IT, computer employees. 33. Topics, edit. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Kinship and family, edit. Main article, kinship. Kinship refers to the anthropological study of the ways in which humans form and maintain relationships with one another and how those relationships operate within and define social organization. 34. Research in kinship studies often crosses over into different anthropological subfields including medical, feminist, and public anthropology. This is likely due to its fundamental concepts, as articulated by linguistic anthropologist Patrick McConville. Kinship is the bedrock of all human societies that we know. All humans recognize fathers and mothers, sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, uncles and aunts, husbands and wives, grandparents, cousins, and often many more complex types of relationships in the terminologies that they use. That is the matrix into which human children are born in the great majority of cases, and their first words are often kinship terms. 35. Throughout history, kinship studies have primarily focused on the topics of marriage, descent, and procreation. 36. Anthropologists have written extensively on the variations within marriage across cultures and its legitimacy as a human institution. There are stark differences between communities in terms of marital practice and value, leaving much room for anthropological fieldwork. For instance, the Nuer of Sudan and the Brahmins of Nepal practice polygyny, where one man has several marriages to two or more women. The Nyar of India and Nyimba of Tibet and Nepal practice polyandry, where one woman is often married to two or more men. The marital practice found in most cultures, however, is monogamy, where one woman is married to one man. Anthropologists also study different marital taboos across cultures, most commonly the incest taboo of marriage within sibling and parent-child relationships. It has been found that all cultures have an incest taboo to some degree, but the taboo shifts between cultures when the marriage extends beyond the nuclear family unit. 34. There are similar foundational differences where the act of procreation is concerned. Although anthropologists have found that biology is acknowledged in every cultural relationship to procreation, there are differences in the ways in which cultures assess the constructs of parenthood. For example, in the Nuyal municipality of Oaxaca, Mexico, it is believed that a child can have partiable maternity and partiable paternity. In this case, a child would have multiple biological mothers in the case that it is born of one woman and then breastfed by another. A child would have multiple biological fathers in the case that the mother had sex with multiple men, following the commonplace belief in Nuyal culture that pregnancy must be preceded by sex with multiple men in order to have the necessary accumulation of semen. 37. Late 20th century shifts in interest, edit. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. In the 21st century, Western ideas of kinship have evolved beyond the traditional assumptions of the nuclear family, raising anthropological questions of consanguinity, lineage, and normative marital expectation. The shift can be traced back to the 1960s, with the reassessment of kinship's basic principles offered by Edmund Leach, Rodney Neum, David Schneider, and others. 36. Instead of relying on narrow ideas of Western normalcy, kinship studies increasingly catered to more ethnographic voices, human agency, intersecting power structures, and historical context. 38. The study of kinship evolved to accommodate for the fact that it cannot be separated from its institutional roots and must pay respect to the society in which it lives, including that society's contradictions, hierarchies, and individual experiences of those within it. This shift was progressed further by the emergence of second-wave feminism in the early 1970s, which introduced ideas of marital oppression, sexual autonomy, and domestic subordination. Other themes that emerged during this time included the frequent comparisons between Eastern and Western kinship systems and the increasing amount of attention paid to anthropologists' own societies, a swift turn from the focus that had traditionally been paid to largely foreign, non-Western communities. 36. Kinship studies began to gain mainstream recognition in the late 1990s with the surging popularity of feminist anthropology, particularly with its work related to biological anthropology and the intersectional critique of gender relations. At this time, there was the arrival of Third World feminism, a movement that argued kinship studies could not examine the gender relations of developing countries in isolation and must pay respect to racial and economic nuance as well. This critique became relevant, for instance, in the anthropological study of Jamaica. Race and class were seen as the primary obstacles to Jamaican liberation from economic imperialism, and gender as an identity was largely ignored. Third World feminism aimed to combat this in the early 21st century by promoting these categories as coexisting factors. In Jamaica, marriage as an institution is often substituted for a series of partners, as poor women cannot rely on regular financial contributions in a climate of economic instability. In addition, there is a common practice of Jamaican women artificially lightening their skin tones in order to secure economic survival. These anthropological findings, according to Third World feminism, cannot see gender, racial, or class differences as separate entities, and instead must acknowledge that they interact together to produce unique individual experiences. 38. Rise of reproductive anthropology, edit. Kinship studies have also experienced a rise in the interest of reproductive anthropology with the advancement of assisted reproductive technologies, ARTs, including in vitro fertilization, IVF. These advancements have led to new dimensions of anthropological research, as they challenge the Western standard of biogenetically based kinship, relatedness, and parenthood. According to anthropologists Maria C. Inhorn and Daphne Birenbaum-Carmeli, arts have pluralized notions of relatedness and led to a more dynamic notion of kinning, namely, kinship as a process, as explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Something under construction, rather than a natural given. 39. With this technology, questions of kinship have emerged over the difference between biological and genetic relatedness, as gestational surrogates can provide a biological environment for the embryo while the genetic ties remain with a third party. 40. If genetic, surrogate, and adoptive maternities are involved, anthropologists have acknowledged that there can be the possibility for 3 biological mothers to a single child. 39. With arts, there are also anthropological questions concerning the intersections between wealth and fertility. Arts are generally only available to those in the highest income bracket, meaning the infertile poor are inherently devalued in the system. There have also been issues of reproductive tourism and bodily commodification, as individuals seek economic security through hormonal stimulation and egg harvesting, which are potentially harmful procedures. With IVF, specifically, there have been many questions of embryotic value and the status of life, particularly as it relates to the manufacturing of stem cells, testing, and research. 39. Current issues in kinship studies, such as adoption, have revealed and challenged the Western cultural disposition towards the genetic, blood tie. 41. Western biases against single-parent homes have also been explored through similar anthropological research, uncovering that a household with a single parent experiences greater levels of scrutiny and is routinely seen as the other of the nuclear, patriarchal family. 42. The power dynamics in reproduction, when explored through a comparative analysis of conventional and unconventional families, have been used to dissect the Western assumptions of childbearing and child-rearing in contemporary kinship studies. Critiques of kinship studies, edit. Kinship, as an anthropological field of inquiry, has been heavily criticized across the discipline. 1. Critique is that, as its inception, the framework of kinship studies was far too structured and formulaic, relying on dense language and stringent rules. 38. Another critique, explored at length by American anthropologist David Schneider, argues that kinship has been limited by its inherent Western ethnocentrism. Schneider proposes that kinship is not a field that can be applied cross-culturally, as the theory itself relies on European assumptions of normalcy. He states in the widely circulated 1984 book A Critique of the Study of Kinship that, kinship has been defined by European social scientists, and European social scientists use their own folk culture as the source of many, if not all of their ways of formulating and understanding the world about them. 43. However, this critique has been challenged by the argument that it is linguistics, not cultural divergence, that has allowed for a European bias, and that the bias can be lifted by centering the methodology on Fundamental human concepts. Polish anthropologist Anna Wierbika argues that mother and father are examples of such fundamental human concepts and can only be westernized when conflated with English concepts such as parent and sibling. 44. A more recent critique of kinship studies is its solipsistic focus on privileged, Western human relations and its promotion of normative ideals of human exceptionalism. In critical kinship studies, social psychologists Elizabeth Peel and Damian Riggs argue for a move beyond this human. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF centered framework, opting instead to explore kinship through a posthumanist vantage point, where anthropologists focus on the intersecting relationships of human animals, non-human animals, technologies and practices. 45. Institutional anthropology, edit. The role of anthropology in institutions has expanded significantly since the end of the 20th century. 46. Much of this development can be attributed to the rise in anthropologists working outside of academia and the increasing importance of globalization in both institutions and the field of anthropology. 46. Anthropologists can be employed by institutions such as for-profit business, non-profit organizations, and governments. 46. For instance, cultural anthropologists are commonly employed by the United States federal government. 46. The two types of institutions defined in the field of anthropology are total institutions and social institutions. 47. Total institutions are places that comprehensively coordinate the actions of people within them, and examples of total institutions include prisons, convents, and hospitals. 47. Social institutions, on the other hand, are constructs that regulate individuals' day-to-day lives, such as kinship, religion, and economics. 47. Anthropology of institutions may analyze labor unions, businesses ranging from small enterprises to corporations, government, medical organizations. 46. Education, 7, prisons, 2, 5, and financial institutions. 14. Non-governmental organizations have garnered particular interest in the field of institutional anthropology because they are capable of fulfilling roles previously ignored by governments, 1, or previously realized by families or local groups, in an attempt to mitigate social problems. 46. The types and methods of scholarship performed in the anthropology of institutions can take a number of forms. Institutional anthropologists may study the relationship between organizations or between an organization and other parts of society. 46. Institutional anthropology may also focus on the inner workings of an institution, such as the relationships, hierarchies and cultures formed. 46. And the ways that these elements are transmitted and maintained, transformed, or abandoned over time. 48. Additionally, some anthropology of institutions examines the specific design of institutions and their corresponding strength. 10. More specifically, anthropologists may analyze specific events within an institution, perform semiotic investigations, or analyze the mechanisms by which knowledge and culture are organized and dispersed. 46. In all manifestations of institutional anthropology, participant observation is critical to understanding The intricacies of the way an institution works and the consequences of actions taken by individuals within it. 49. Simultaneously, anthropology of institutions extends beyond examination of the commonplace involvement of individuals in institutions to discover how and why the organizational principles evolved in the manner that they did. 48. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Common considerations taken by anthropologists in studying institutions include the physical location at which a researcher places themselves, as important interactions often take place in private, and the fact that the members of an institution are often being examined in their workplace, and may not have much idle time to discuss the details of their everyday endeavors. 50. The ability of individuals to present the workings of an institution in a particular light or frame must additionally be taken into account when using interviews and document analysis to understand an institution. 49. As the involvement of an anthropologist may be met with distrust when information being released to the public is not directly controlled by the institution and could potentially be damaging. 50. See also, edit. Age area hypothesis concept in cultural anthropology. Anthropology of religion, study of religion related to other religions or institutions. Bibliography of anthropology. Ceremonial pole stake or post used in ritual practice. Community studies, academic field in the study of community. Communitas, Latin noun for an unstructured community. Cross-cultural psychology, scientific study of human behavior. Cultural psychology, how cultures reflect and shape their psychology. Cultural evolution, evolutionary theory of social change. Cultural relativism, anthropological concept that requires one's behaviors to be understood in cultural context. Culture change term in public policy. Culturology, branch of social sciences. Digital anthropology, subdiscipline of anthropology. Engaged theory, comprehensive critical theory. Ethnobotany, science of the study of plants in relation to their use by humans. Ethnomusicology, study of the cultural aspects of music. Ethnozoology, study of human and animal interaction. Folkloristics, branch of anthropology. Guilt, shame, fear spectrum of culture's main emotion used for social control. Intangible cultural heritage, class of UNESCO. Designated cultural heritage. Kluck-Hone and Strodbeck's values orientation theory. Nomad, person without fixed habitat. Sociology of culture, branch of the discipline of sociology. References, edit. 1 A. B. Fisher, William F. 1997. 1997. Annual Review of Anthropology. 26, 43964. Do. 10.1146/anov.anthro.26.1.439. S2 SID 56375779. 2 A. B. Cunha, Manuela, 2014. The Ethnography of Prisons and Penal Confinement, PDF. Annual Review of Anthropology. 43, 21733. Do. 10.1146/anov.anthro102313-030349. HDL 1822/32800. Archived, PDF, from the original on the 9th of October 2022. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. 3. In his earlier work, like many anthropologists of this generation, Levi Strauss draws attention to the necessary and urgent task of maintaining and extending the empirical foundations of anthropology in the practice of fieldwork. In Christopher Johnson, Claude Levi-Strauss, The Formative Years. Archived 10 January 2023 at the Wayback Machine, Cambridge University Press, 2003, p. 31. 4. Cultural anthropology, historical development, cross-cultural comparison, fieldwork. Britannica. www.britannica.com. Retrieved 16 March 2024. 5. A.B. Rhodes, Lorna. 2001. Toward an Anthropology of Prisons. Annual Review of Anthropology. 30, 6583. Do. 10.1146/anov.anthro.30.1.65. S2 SID 539742002. 6. Tyler, Edward. 1920, 1871. Primitive Culture archived 15 December 2022 at the Wayback Machine. Vol. 1 New York, J.P. Putnam's Sons. 7. A.B. Magaldar, Peter M. March 2000. The Campus Tour, Ritual and Community in Higher Education. Anthropology and Education Quarterly. 31. 2446. Do. 10.1525/ic.2000.31.1.24. 8. Milton, K. 1996. Environmentalism and Cultural Theory, Exploring the Role of Anthropology in Environmental Discourse. New York, Routledge Press. pp. 837. ISBN 0415115302. 9. Diamond, Jared. Guns, Germs and Steel. 10. A.B. Levitsky, Stephen, Murillo, Maria, 2009. Variation in Institutional Strength. Annual Review of Political Science. 12, 11533. Do. 10.1146/anov.policy.11.091106.121756. S2 SID 559813225. 11. Cultural Relativism. Archived from the original on 13 June 2007. Retrieved 13 June 2007. 12. Heyer, Virginia, 1948. In reply to Elgin Williams. American Anthropologist. 50, 116366. Do. 10.1525/AA.1948.50.1.02000290. S2 SID 1619784112. 13. Anthropology for Beginners, Social and Cultural Anthropology. The 11th of June, 2010. Archived from the original on the 6th of June, 2021. Retrieved the 18th of March, 2014. Academic blog post explaining the similarities/differences between social and cultural anthropology. 14. A.B. Ho, Karen, 2009. Liquidated, an ethnography of Wall Street. Contemporary Sociology, a Journal of Reviews. 41, 73947. 15-Carat Stocking, George W. 1968, Race, Culture, and Evolution, Essays in the History of Anthropology. London, The Free Press. 16-Carat Mead, Margaret, 2005. Ruth Benedict, A Humanist in Anthropology. Columbia University Press. p. 55. ISBN 978-0-231-13491-0. Ruth Benedict Ralph Linton. 17-Carat Lutke-Hawes, Nancy, 2008. Margaret Mead, The Making of an American Icon. Princeton University Press. ISBN 978-0-691-00941-4. Margaret Mead. 18-Carat Fanon, France. 1963, The Wretched of the Earth, Trunsa. Constance Farrington. New York, Grove. Weidenfeld. 19-Carat Nugent, Stephen. Some Reflections on Anthropological Structural Marxism, archived 1 October 2007 at The Wayback Machine, The Journal of the Royal Anthropological Institute, Volume 13, No. 2, June 2007, pp. 41931. 20-Carat Lewis, Herbert S. 1998, The Misrepresentation of Anthropology and Its Consequences, archived 3 April 2017 at the Wayback Machine. American Anthropologist 107 1631. 21-Carat Geertz, Clifford, 1973. The Interpretation of Cultures. Basic Books. pp. 5. ISBN 9780465097197. 22-Carat Rosebery, William, 1989. Balinese Cockfights and the Seduction of Anthropology in Anthropologies and Histories, Essays in Culture, History and Political Economy. New Brunswick, N.J. Rutgers University Press. pp. 1728. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API, printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. 23-Carat Carsten, Janet, 2004. After Kinship. Cambridge, Cambridge University Press. pp. 1820. 24-Carat Clifford, James and Georgie Marcus, 1986, Writing Culture, The Poetics and Politics of Ethnography. Berkeley, University of California Press. 25-Carat Dolores Januski, Lois W. Banner, 2005, Reading Benedict / Reading Mead, Feminism, Race, and Imperial Visions. p. 200, archived 15 December 2022 at the Wayback Machine. Quotation. Within Anthropology's Two Cultures, the positivist / objectivist style of comparative anthropology versus a reflexive / interpretative anthropology, Mead has been characterized as a humanist heir to Franz Boas's historical particularism, hence associated with the practices of interpretation and reflexivity. 26-Carat Gelner, Ernest, 1992, Postmodernism, Reason, and Religion. London / New York, Routledge. pp. 26. 50. 27-Carat ABCDEFGHIJK Monahan, John, Just, Peter, 2000. Social and Cultural Anthropology, A Very Short Introduction. New York, Oxford University Press. ISBN 978-0-19-285346-2. 28 De Walt, K.M., De Walt, B.R., and Wayland, C.B. 1998. Participant Observation. In H.R. Bernard. ed. Handbook of Methods in Cultural Anthropology. pp. 25999. Walnut Creek, CA, Altamira Press. 29 Tierney, Jerry, 2007. Becoming a Participant Observer. In Angrosano, Michael, ed. Doing Cultural Anthropology, Projects for Ethnographic Data Collection. Prospect Heights, IL, Waveland Press. 30 Swick Perry, Helen, 1988. Using Participant Observation to Construct a Life History. In Berg, David. ed. The Self in Social Inquiry. Kenwyn Smith. Newbury Park, CA, Sage Publications. 31 A.B. Price, Laurie J. 2007. Carrying Out a Structured Observation. In Angrosano, Michael, ed. Doing Cultural Anthropology, Projects for Ethnographic Data Collection. Prospect Heights, IL, Waveland Press. 32 Rosaldo, Renato, 1989. Culture and Truth. Boston, Ma, Beacon Press. 33 Avison, David E. Myers, Michael D., 1 March 1995. Information Systems and Anthropology, and Anthropological Perspective on IT and Organizational Culture. Information Technology and People. 8. 34356 to 10.1011084939384951009826. Archived from the original on 28 August 2022. Retrieved 28 August 2022 via Ingenta Connect. 34 AB Guest, Kenneth J. 2013. Cultural Anthropology, A Toolkit for a Global Age. New York, W.W. Norton and Company. pp. 34991. 35 McConville, Patrick, 2013. Introduction, Kinship Change in Anthropology and Linguistics. Kinship. Systems, Change and Reconstruction. Salt Lake City, University of Utah Press, 118. 36 ABC Pielitz, Michael G. 1995. Kinship Studies in Late 20th Century Anthropology. Annual Review of Anthropology. 24, 34556. Do. 10.1046/anav.anthro.24.1.343. 37 Just, Peter, Monahan, John, 2000. Social and Cultural Anthropology, A Very Short Introduction. Oxford, Oxford University Press. pp. 81-88. ISBN 978-0-19-285346-2. 38 ABC Stone, Linda, 2001. New Directions in Anthropological Kinship. Lanham, M.D., Roman and Littlefield Publishers. pp. 1368. 39 ABC Birenbaum Carmeli, Daphne, Inhorn, Maria C. 2008. Assisted Reproductive Technologies and Culture Change. Annual Review of Anthropology. 37, 18285. Do. 10.101147.anthro.37.081407.085230. S2 SID 46994808. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. 40 Franklin, Sarah, Ragon, Helena, 1998. Reproducing Reproduction, Kinship, Power, and Technological Innovation. Philadelphia, University of Pennsylvania Press. p. 129. 41 Logan, Janet, 2013. Contemporary Adoptive Kinship. Child and Family Social Work. 18, 13545. Do. 10.1111/CFS.12042. 42 Ginsberg, Fay. Rapp, Rayner, 1995. Conceiving the New World Order, The Global Politics of Reproduction. Berkeley and Los Angeles, University of California Press. 43 Schneider, David M. 1984. A Critique of the Study of Kinship. Ann Arbor, University of Michigan Press. 44 Weerbeker, Anna, 2016. Back to Mother and Father, Overcoming the Eurocentrism of Kinship. Studies through 8 Lexical Universals, PDF. Current Anthropology. 57, 440828. Do. 10.1086/687360. HDL, 1885/152274. S2 SID 148193954. Archived, PDF, from the original. On 9 October 2022. 45 Peel, Elizabeth, Riggs, Damian W. 2016. Critical Kinship Studies. Basingstoke, UK, Palgrave. Macmillan. pp. 1020. 46 ABCDEFGHI Douglas, Corkins, 2012. A Companion to Organizational Anthropology. Hoboken, NJ. Wiley. 47 ABC Hedged-Manick, Katie Rose, the 28th of November 2016. Institutions. Oxford Bibliographies. Archived. From the original on 20th of April 2017. Retrieved 20th of April 2017. 48 A.B. Smith, Dorothy E. 2006. Institutional Ethnography as Practice. Lanham, M.D., Roman and Littlefield Publishers, Incorporated. 49 A.B. Velo, Mark, 2001. Are Politics Human? Problems and Challenges of Institutional Anthropology. Social Anthropology. 9, 334553 do. 10.1011/J.100466.2001.TB00162.x. 50 A.B. Riles, Anne Elise, 2000. The Network Inside Out. The University of Michigan Press. External links, edit. Official website of Human Relations Area Files, RAF, based at Yale University. A Basic Guide to Cross-Cultural Research from RAF. EHIF World Cultures. EHIF Archaeology. Category: Cultural Anthropology. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF.